Okay. Welcome everybody to my meditation today. I am not coming at you live. The past couple weeks, or past 2 times I've tried for whatever reason, hasn't really worked out for me. So, and I really wanted to get this topic out because it's timely and I think it's important to discuss. So I was just going to go ahead and just film this as if it were kind of like a live meditation, and then I'll upload it, and you guys can check it out whenever you want. Cool. So step one, you gotta light the incense. Cool. So what is it that is so important that I wanted to talk about? Well, I really wanted to talk about the concept of wrathful deities in specifically in Tibetan or Tantric Buddhism. Kind of like what they represent, who they are, and why they're really relevant to us right now. So, normally when we think of, if you think of an image associated with Buddhism, what do you think of? Well, you're probably thinking of the fat Buddha that you've seen in the Chinese restaurants. He's actually not Buddha. He's a version of Maitreya, the Buddha of the future. But he's a wealth deity, that's why he's in the Chinese restaurants. Or you think of just like somebody very peacefully like sitting and meditating or something like that. And I mean, that's what a lot of people are attracted to Buddhism, because of this kind of, aura of peace that it really gives, and how it's been portrayed, really in the West as being like, this peaceful religion, it's not even a religion, it's a philosophy, it's not a religious belief, it's a way of looking at the world type of thing, which is like, yeah, I kind of have my issues with that. So this idea of wrathful deities comes from Tantric Buddhism. And they are not your typical looking Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. And in fact, they live up to their name. So this is a wrathful deity right here. You can see he's holding a sword. He's got big open eyes. He's black in color. Also, it's maybe hard to see, but he's standing on Ganesh, the Hindu elephant god, which whenever I'd show people images of somebody standing on Ganesh at the Reuben, they'd always get really upset. I can talk about that, but that's for another time. And so, yeah, these wrathful deities that we see a lot in the Tibetan artwork, they have, they're generally, not always, but skin's dark in color, either black or blue. They have their eyes are like wide open, and if you compare that to like a normal sitting Buddha, their eyes are actually generally like half closed. So their eyes are wide open. They got a third eye. They're baring their fangs. They're got wild, crazy hair that looks like flames. They're holding weapons. That one wasn't, but a lot of the times they're wearing a garland of heads. So like just a necklace of severed heads around their neck and around their body. And sometimes they can have blood dripping from their fangs, and surrounding them, oftentimes you'll see like images of human skin, humans being flayed, and like all these like really grotesque imagery. And so what's that all about? I mean, to us it's like, it looks very demonic, right? To a Westerner, it's like, oh, that's like the devil, right? You know, it's like a hell being or something like that. But really, they're not bad. They're actually, well, there's a kind of an interior way to look at them and an exterior way to look at them. And so we'll first talk about the exterior way to look at them. And that way is that they are actually protectors. So oftentimes when you're going into a temple in like Tibet or Nepal or, you know, somewhere where they practice Tibetan Buddhism, you're going to go in and you're going to see, you're going to be greeted by one of those guys. You know, the idea is that they look so scary because they're meant to scare away anything that could possibly scare you. So that's why they're protectors. And also, I mean, it's kind of like a secret code, which I think is kind of cool. It's like, if you saw one of these big wrathful deities standing outside of a doorway, you'd probably like, oh, I don't want to go there. But now that you know that it's a protector, you know, and not a demon, you don't have to be scared of it anymore, right? So again, kind of like a secret code. So that's sort of like the exterior or external meaning for wrathful deities. And then kind of how I interpret the more internal meaning for what wrathful deities, and really what's more relevant to us now is that internal meaning, is that they represent the ability to channel and take negative emotions and transmute them and transform them into something positive. And so I think we're seeing that a lot right now with, you know, we're going on 2 weeks straight of protests after, you know, the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, what we're seeing is we're seeing people that are upset and angry. And they're channeling that hurt and pain and anger and fear that they have into something positive, into the protests that we're seeing. And, you know, I've, being in Brooklyn, I've been to a couple of protests here in New York City, and by far, you know, and everybody that I know that's gone to them, by far, you know, the majority of the protesting that's happening is completely peaceful. And so that's what the thing about these wrathful deities is. It's like you like, the thing is, they look crazy, right? They look wild, but they're actually completely stable in their emotions, and they're completely in control. And they're grounded, and that's what we are trying to accomplish with our meditation. We're actually trying to get to that stage where we can, you know, be grounded and still be able to express our anger. Or be grounded and still be able to express our fears, but not to be overwhelmed by them, you know. And because with meditation, and with Buddhist meditation in particular, you know, we're not trying to eliminate emotions. We're trying to really understand them. And ignoring emotions doesn't do anything, you know. It's just like, it just exacerbates the problem even more. And so really, in order to really understand, we gotta get into the nitty-gritty. We gotta get into these negative emotions, and we have to, you know, become familiar with them. And once we become familiar with them, they're not so scary anymore, right? Just like anything, really. You know, once we become familiar with our negative emotions, then we can better control them. And, you know, and that's what we're watching here when we're meditating and we're watching the mind. So, you know, we're noticing what's positive for us, what's negative for us, and then what's neutral for us too. Those are generally the three categories that Buddhism talks about: positive, negative, and neutral. So yeah, so I really feel that these wrathful deities are like this kind of model for an expression of for our times. Really, being you can't be a passive Buddha all the time. And sometimes you have to be active, and that's what these wrathful deities also on another level represent, this kind of active, enlightened activity is one of the ways they put it. And if you noticed, he was standing actually in warrior pose. So if you've ever done yoga, you know in warrior poses, most of the time these wrathful deities are standing in that pose, and that's supposed to be a pose of action, of activity. So we see this expression of again, anger, hurt, fear, pain happening in these protests, particularly, from the black community. But again, they're taking all of this negativity and changing it into something good. And so the wrathful deities are kind of already there. It's already happening, but I just thought it was a really cool connection, and just something to think about too, when it relates to our own practice. There are going to be times when we're hurt and we're upset, but if we can kind of understand that pain and where that pain is coming from, that gives us more control of it, and we're less likely to really, fly off the rails, go out of control. So again, even though this guy looks crazy, he looks real wild, but he's in complete control. It's just another expression. They actually say this is a manifestation of compassion. Excuse me, these wrathful deities are wrathful compassion. And again, people are like, what? Wrathful compassion? What does that mean? But it's, again, when I've talked about how compassion in Buddhism really means more like activity, like an action. Compassion is an action. These guys are action. So, take action from a grounded place. And yeah, I really feel like taking action from that grounded place, not losing control, but still being honest with how you're feeling. That is really where the power of meditation comes in, and that's the power of being able to communicate to people in an effective way. And I think, that's exactly what we're seeing with the protests happening right now. Cool. So yeah, it's okay to get a little wrathful sometimes. But why don't we go ahead and meditate? So we'll start off with our typical body scan. You'll want to take a comfortable seat, either grounded, cross-legged on the floor, or in a chair. And you feel free to meditate with your eyes open or closed, whatever's most comfortable for you. And keep your back straight, but not rigid. So here we go. So now we're going to place our awareness on our feet. Just seeing how our feet feel right now in this moment. Maybe they feel warm, maybe they feel cold. Maybe you notice a particular texture touching your feet. However your feet feel right now, just recognize them and become aware of that part of your body. All right, now we're going to move our attention up to our seat. where our body comes in contact with either the ground or the chair. Feel how you are held up and supported during your practice. All right, now we'll move our attention up to our belly. Just placing our awareness on that part of our body. Begin to notice the subtle movements the belly makes, particularly as it follows the breath. Now we're going to move our attention up to our heart, to that space in the center of our chest. Just become aware of that part of your body and notice how it feels right now in this moment. Now we're going to move our attention up to our shoulders, checking in with this part of our body. Again, just become aware of how your shoulders feel right now in this moment. And rest your attention there. Now, we're going to move our attention to the back of the head. Feeling a place on our body that we don't often think about. All right, now we'll move our attention back down to our feet. Noticing the textures touching them. Now we'll bring our awareness up to our seat, feeling the support. Now we'll bring our attention up to our belly, noticing its subtle movements. Now we'll bring our awareness up to our heart, feeling that space in the center of your chest. Next, we'll bring our awareness to our shoulders. Again, just feeling this part of our body right now. And now we'll bring our attention to the back of the head. All right, now we'll bring our attention back down to our feet. Now we'll bring our attention up to our seat. Now we'll bring our attention up to our belly. Now we'll bring our attention up to our heart. Now we'll bring our attention to our shoulders. Now we'll bring our attention to the back of the head. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our first round of meditation. Okay. Normally this is the point where I say if you have any questions you can ask, but not live this time, so I'm just gonna grab my phone for the timer. Okay. All right. So next round of meditation we're going to do is just a brief focus on the breath. So you want to place your attention anywhere or in the part of your body where you feel the breath strongest, whether it's the tip of the nostrils, the chest, or the belly. So yeah, well, this meditation will be about 3 to 4 minutes. And let's get started. Again, comfortable seat, back straight, and here we go. I'll do a bit of ring. So now we'll place our attention on our breath. Wherever we feel the breath strongest in our body, just move your attention there. Begin to watch the breath. There's no need to change anything about your breathing. Just notice its natural movements. And if you get distracted and you're no longer watching your breath, that's truly okay. Just recognize that you've been distracted. Gently place your attention back on the breath. And if a thought or feeling arises and you're no longer watching your breath, that's truly okay. Just recognize that you've been distracted. Gently bring your attention back to the breath. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our second round of meditation. All right, so just do a quick 10-second break and then we'll do one more round of meditation. Um, and this time I will not guide you, so you'll be on your own. But again, just remember the whole idea here is that we're watching our natural movements of the breath. And if you get distracted, notice that you're no longer watching the breath. That's okay. It's going to happen. And just bring your attention back to the breath. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our third round of meditation. Once I ring the bell, I invite you to join me in a bow, dedicating all the merit we've accrued today to the benefit of all sentient beings. So again, thank you very much for practicing with me today. I really appreciate it. Also, if you like the channel, please subscribe to it and like the video. I am available for private lessons. I generally charge $50 an hour, but I'm open to negotiations, so just hit me up and we can discuss and work something out. Also, I do accept donations, but today I'd just like to ask you if you feel like giving a donation, just please give it to somebody or to something that that's supporting all the changes that are happening in our country right now. That's supporting the protests, that's supporting the black community. Do that instead today. So anyway, again, thank you so much for practicing with me today, and I will see you on Thursday.